Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to this month's edition of Oak Hill Regional Development Corporation's third Wednesday Parent Resource Chat. My name is Bettina Campbell, and I am the Social Service Coordinator and Medicaid CHIP Assister at Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation, which is the parent corporation for Healthy Together Mississippi. Again, today with us is our Metrics and Technology Director, Mr. Thomas Duke Robinson. We want to recognize our Executive Director, Dr. Michael O. Miner, and our Program Director, Lottie Miner. Well, we have some continuing great news. Oak Hill is making some changes to ensure that we better providing information, resources that are dedicated to uplifting and equipping parents with practical tools, timely resources, and faith-rooted encouragement. So we encourage you to share our new website, Healthy Together Mississippi. Aside from this Facebook page, and our website is www.healthytogetherms.org. And then we want you to stay tuned because we have more exciting events and opportunities coming. So just stay tuned, and we are excited, and we hope that you will become as excited as we are about the new directions that we are going. So, along with all kinds of spooky festivities and the arrival of sweater weather, there are plenty of October holidays that are occurring throughout the month. And there are things like the National Pasta Day, Pumpkin Spice Day, International Day of Nonviolence, and October 13th was Breast Cancer Awareness Day. In fact, the whole month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we also have the National Church Safety and Security Month, the International Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day is today. Again, the International Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance is today. So I want you all to take time to go out on the web and look up the information about that and share that information, because it is so critical. And it's vital that we all join in to try to stop this epidemic that's in our community. So October 18th is Sweetest Day. So you still have time, if you haven't already bought a gift for your boo or your sweetest or whatever you call them, you still have time to go out and get that taken care of and let them know that they are someone special in your life. Also, and there are many more, holidays that are celebrated in this month. Some of them are serious, some of them are funny, but it's important that you do become aware of some. And it's also good that some are funny because it gives us an opportunity to laugh, and laughter is good for the soul. So, but today we want to take an opportunity to talk about hyperactivity deficit disorder, and also domestic violence. Again, these are also awareness months for those two. We have with us today Ms. Anita Bill Northworthy. She's an LMSW, and she's the owner of Best Day Ever, a reliable counseling office in Waynesboro, Mississippi. And she's going to talk to us today about ADHD. So we want to welcome her. Also, we have with us Cherise Stapleton, who is the founder of Executive Director of Mothers of Joy Institute for Parenting and Family Wellness Incorporated in Flint, Michigan. And she is going to present on domestic violence. Welcome, Cherise.
Thank you.
So nice to have both of you ladies here with us today. I'm sure that we're going to learn a lot. But before we get started on our presentation, I want to again encourage you to go and please share your social media pages with your family or with your friends, and invite them to learn along with you so that you can become resources for each other. And we also want you to take time to go and get your pencil and your paper and make sure that you write down any questions or comments that you might have as we go through the presentations, because we want to make sure to answer or address them at the end of the presentations and during our question and answer sessions. So Again, our first speaker is Miss Sharice N. Stapleton. She's a native of Flint, Michigan, and she received her Child Development Associates in Early Childhood Education from Mott Community College. And soon she will earn a bachelor's in behavioral science from Bellevue University. Congratulations, lady.
Thank you.
She is also an ordained pastor. Cherie states that throughout her life, she has overcome many obstacles, starting at birth with being born at only 2 pounds and 3 ounces. And she says she's had other setbacks, such as being divorced and homeless with children, which has fueled her desire to train other women to embrace the joys of motherhood. Again, welcome, Cherise, and you may start your presentation.
Thank you. Just give me just a second. This is a real fun way of doing things here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Ms. Campbell. And let's get right to it. I decided to title this Domestic Violence in a Pandemic World because things have literally shifted because of the pandemic. If you don't already know, our world went through a crisis, but on top of a crisis, we had to deal with heightened things as far as domestic violence and like interpersonal violence in that point. The context that I'll come from is what is domestic violence, the effects of domestic violence in children, family domestic violence, and DV within men. So, as the CDC defines domestic violence as a physical violence, sexual violence, stalking, and psychological aggression, including covert acts by a current or former intimate partner. Domestic and family violence has no boundaries. Because I am a master trainer in ACEs, I wanted to make sure that I utilize what the CDC talks about regarding our children, right? Um, just a second here. Based on information from the Center for Disease Control, on prevention and related sources, the effects of domestic violence on children, including lifelong harm, is their physical, mental, and developmental health. This trauma is considered an adverse childhood experience, and it is in the rubric of the 10 risk factors with ACEs, which significantly increases the risk for a wide range of health and social problems into adulthood. Behavioral and social effects, physical and health effects, and mental and emotional effects. I just gave one because of the time that we have, but teenagers begin to act out. Many act out through fighting with family, skipping school, or engaging in risky behavior like using drugs and alcohol. Long-term health effects are chronic disease as a person becomes an adult and are exposed to domestic violence in childhood. The increased risk of chronic health disease like heart disease and diabetes and obesity is something that's brought on because of the stress that's involved with domestic violence. Mental and emotional effects are depression, within with excuse me withdrawal. Children may experience depression, anger outbursts, and social withdrawals. Teenagers in particular may become withdrawn and show signs of depression. I wanted to give some insight on family domestic abuse. I don't think this one is talked about enough. Sometimes there's situations that happen within the family structure where a parent or an older adult may be isolated or treated unfairly or unkind because the family may think that they're trying to help them, and it ends up being stated as abuse. Family and domestic violence in any behavior that causes physical and emotional or psychological harm for someone within a family or intimate relationship. It includes controlling behaviors, threats, and isolation. We're going to talk about the power wheel for just a second. This is a very intricate tool within the domestic violence arena, and it has different sectors that you connect together to find out ways to mitigate the situation. How you utilize the tool is you identify the abusive pattern, you recognize the non-physical abuse, and then you understand the abuser's motives. So for example, um if a person makes threats, using a look or gesture, smashing things or destroying property to make you afraid, isolate, control, or put you in a position where you're not able to connect with others, using jealousy to justify actions, or monitoring your communications, not allowing you to use the phone, not allowing you to connect with people via email and such. That's considered to be an isolation. Economic abuse, preventing you from working or controlling you to access money. DV within men, I just wanted to talk about the more or less the
It seems that she may have
I'm
maybe
finna say,
frozen.
is she froze? Yeah, she's
She's
froze.
frozen, yes. So
Hmm.
I'll, I'm not sure. And she will probably rejoin us in just a minute. But just to talk about some of the information that she was sharing with us in terms of some of the signs. Sister Nita, what did you think about what she was sharing?
Yes, everything was great. So true. I love the wheel. I definitely want to get a copy of the wheel, just talking about, the different stages, the different types of violence, what happens within those areas too as well. Domestic violence is definitely something that is on the rise, and I can say this, it happens more than we think. Especially if you grew up in that culture of a family that would share, that would say what goes on in this house stays in this house. So that lets us know that it goes on more and more than we can ever imagine. There's Cerise, she's
Yes, welcome
she's
back.
so
back.
how long was I gone? Because I was just talking
The last thing was
Well,
your
you need to start
wheel.
with the men
with
and
the
why you
wheel,
chose that.
with
Yes,
the percentage of the
DV,
men.
uh-huh.
I don't know, the
Yes.
internet connection just like disappeared. And then I looked up and I seen a bubble. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I was on the road too.
you
Um,
were. Yes,
all right. Thank you for bearing with me in this moment. I don't know what that was about, but
that's it.
only God knows. Okay. Oh no, no, not that one. Oh, go back, go back. Okay. All right, just a second here. Here we go. All right, we're almost at the end too, which is funny. But just wanted you to know the statistics pertaining women, right, and men, because a lot of times there seem to be a thought that men are not victimized. And there you go. This that was the end. So thank you for your time and attention. If you need to contact me or if you would like to contact me, my email address is Shree Stapleton at mothersinstituteparentingwell.com. Our phone number is 586-329-0579. And we have our website, which is www.mothersinstituteparentingwell.com. I also wrote a book for Flint and Genesee County called Positive Parenting for Trauma Informed Families that uses the ACEs framework because we're trying to incorporate more PACEs into our structure here, which is a preventative measure. And these are programs that we are now presenting, which is HEAL, helping to educate through action and love. Positive Parenting 2.1, Positive Kids 2.1, our Family Safe Space model, and we have a initiative that is happening in November, which is the Weight on Your Shoulders, grandparents raising grandchildren. So thank you for listening.
That's
And I
awesome.
apologize for the disconnection. I don't know what that was about, but we fixed
Again,
it.
not to worry about that. We know that anything can happen. Uh, I do want to start with the last subject, the men. Why is it so hard
Mhm.
for society to accept that men can be victims of violence, domestic violence?
Because in all cultures, men are quote unquote supposed to be the protector, the strong one, the one that brings about safety. So how can someone who uh more quote unquote is supposed to be a protector be victimized? And we know that some younger people are how can I put it, not I, they are learning more to show compassion or empathy within men. Men are now learning that it's okay to express their emotions. You know, once in our culture, you know, if a man cries or if a man shows that quote unquote he's weak, then you know he's quote unquote not a man. But I would beg to differ that if a man is able to express his feelings and share his emotions, especially with those that he loves and cares for, that person is a more empathetic man. I'll even go as far back as to talk about early childhood. You know, if a dad came in and saw his son in an apron and you know he was in the kitchen, he would more or less be like, "Nah, you know, my man ain't no square or blah blah blah." But what that shows is helping that young person know what it means to take care of a household, right? Wash dishes, because maybe he don't have a wife right away, or maybe he needs to learn how to do these things first without uh the help of someone, right? But then that he may become a father where he may need to show compassion towards his children in that part. So I think our society has made it where it views men as not being able to be considered a victim.
Well, thank you for that answer.
Mhm.
So I also wanted to find out when we're talking about um, the economy, do you
Mhm.
think that it plays a part in domestic violence, and if so, how?
I can say yes and no. Right? There is some situations where people don't have a lot, where they are just getting by, but they're not beating up on one another. They're not taking advantage of one another. They're not doing the things that push people into rage or anger. They're working with one another to try to make ends meet. Now, on the other hand, when there's some mental health issues, when there is some not, I'll even say a lack of understanding in some areas. If a person hasn't dealt with their childhood trauma, or that it comes into your adulthood, it follows you, it until you resolve it, it's gonna always be there, and then it may not show up until something triggers it. And it may be a situation that may have happened within that relationship that has triggered that, and that person doesn't know how to respond to it or even how to deal with it, and they lash out at the person that's closest to them. And that's more or less how that works, right? When you're in relationship with someone, you lash out at that person. When you're dealing with children, if you don't real understand that children are not sounding boards, that you should never discuss hard things with children at an early age, because they take on the responsibility of parentship when you do that, right? So I hope that made sense, because it's some layers to this thing, and it's a building block that kind of goes with it.
And yeah, because I can see, even like sometimes when men get frustrated
Oh,
because
yeah.
they lost their job or
Yeah.
they're not making what they think that they should make, or the wife is having to contribute a little bit more to the family than he is taught that a man should allow. And then that can be very
And
igniting too.
And that's where people like I come in to have conversations that say, if we can work together, maybe at this stage of life, I'm going to work a little bit and you're going to do this part. And until I get something taken care of, it's all about how you build your relationship too. And if you allow other people to dictate how you do your relationship, that plays a factor, because family is in somebody's ear. He ain't working. What you mean he not working? Oh, she ain't taking care of the kids of the house. What you mean she ain't taking care of the kids of the house? But that is you and your spouse's responsibility of building your house together. So how you determine how it functions is the catalyst, right? So a lot of times it's because too many people are in people's business and it begins to play a factor. So I just say that if something like that happens, the wife, I would hope that she would be supportive, and say, I'm sorry this happened, but we can make it, let's devise a plan together as a family until, things change. I'll do this part. How do you feel about that? What's your take on that? But when you engage in that way, that's a team effort. And that is a marriage. A marriage is a team. And if it's not working like that, that's where those frustrations come in. If somebody comes and say, you know what, you worthless, just like your mama, or they start to do those things, that begins to mess with that person's mind. And they start thinking those, we call them deviant ways. And it's just the way of the world. So, and then I'm gonna have to put a shameless plug on God. Um, if He is in the picture, there's a lot more things that you can do with each other, because you're not relying on one another. You're relying on something else. So,
Thank you so very, very much for that. And so what I heard you say too was that I want people to take away from sometimes families can unintentionally be a catalyst
mhm.
that can lead to domestic violence within a situation.
And they think that they're helping, right? They think that they
Right.
are, especially if you say you're a person that was in a one family household and they did it all, right? But now you got this person that you can hear that other person saying, well, what you need him for if he can't help do nothing? Then you in your mind thinking, well, dang, maybe that is a thing. But that's when you have to build your own house. You have to build your own family and put things the way that you and your spouse want things to be. If one falls, the other one rise. If that one fall, the other one rise. Somebody takes up the slack, and it does not mean that that person is less than. It does not mean that that man is not strong. It just means that there was a setback, and now he has to do what he needs to do to come back up. And if that wife is supportive, she's going to support him. Well, how's things going? Have you got any leads today? I'm excited, and keeping him encouraged because that's what you do for one another.
So I find this interesting, but let me ask a question. The last question I want to ask you for right now is, what can we do? How can we make sure that we're helping? Because no matter, sometimes the marriage is, no matter what the woman does or no matter what the man does, it's just not going to work. Because as you said, that a lot of people are dealing with trauma that has not been resolved, or they have people in their ear, or they think that their culture says that a man's supposed to act this way, and the lady's culture said, no, this is the way a man's supposed to act. So you got that, put those springs yinging and yanging against each other. And so it's like, what can we as family, as friends, as church family, as professionals, what can we do to help in situations like this?
I say one, if there's a domestic violence situation, you encourage that person to do what's best for them, because at the end of the day, so much can come from that, right? For two, if that person has done all that they can and they have done, and the other person still is like mean and not doing the things right, that person has to take care of themselves. There's something that I say all the time: take care of yourself while taking care of others, because if you don't, you won't be around or available to take care of others, because stress is such a major thing in life. The more that is piled on you, the more your health comes under attack, more your mental comes under attack. So there's so many different levels. And I'll say this towards the end where family is concerned: if you're not going to speak life into that situation, don't speak anything at all. Leave them alone. Allow them to work it out. Because sometimes if we decide, because I'm gonna listen to my mama, right? I'm gonna listen to my grandma. I'm gonna listen to them because I feel that they're wise. But if they are telling me all of the things that I'm learning not to do, I'm gonna have to turn a deaf ear to them and tell them, look, I love y'all. I respect what you are saying, but we are going to try to work it out. If it does not work out, don't come back to them and tell them I told you so and all. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. What you do is you tell them, I see that you tried, you put a good effort into it, but you will survive. You will be okay.
I thank you for saying that, but I think one of the challenges in society today is the way that laws are written and the way that they are enforced, that allows the victim, whether they male or female, to think that they're not going to get the reinforcement or the help that they need by going to the police. So I think another thing that we could do is reach out to our legislators and let them know what we're seeing from our perspective, and then what we would like for them to do to be able to eliminate some of these barriers, so that you don't have to wait 24 or 48 hours or 2 days after an event happens in order to file something, or so they're not picking this person up who's threatening you, and they've gone out to the house to have to get them from a situation, and then they take them downtown, cool off, and let them go. We have to, and then they're back out there killing that person. So we really need to figure out some better ways as a community. And I'm talking about not just the community that we live in, but the larger community of the world. We really have to figure out a better way in order to deal with this violence, and not only just between a husband and a wife, but also violence between partners, whether they are male or female. And our one of the things, I'm gonna say this, and I must move on, but one of the things, unfortunately, that a lot of our young ladies learn at home is that mama put up with it from daddy. Mama took it, so it makes me stronger if I can take it. And so we need to be encouraging people that love is not violence. Love does not physically hurt you.
Can I say one more thing, Ms. Campbell?
Sure.
There is some things that have been put in place. Um, because I've worked with the Y before, I was a crisis counselor there. It allowed me to put in place where we can, before that 24 hours, can go and put in a a order for them not to be on the premises or not to connect with them. And it had to happen like that because things happen, right? It's unfortunate that things have to happen in order for something to be put in place. But because of that, we're able to go within when they come to us, where they write it out, we petition it, and it happens before that 24 hours.
I'm glad to hear that that happens there because it seems that it will be it's individual to not even states
But you
but
know, we
to
a small
different.
community too, so
Yes. But I'm happy to hear that. So let me move on for now, and I'm sure that if you stay with us, we'll have questions from our participants later. So it's
thank you.
I do apologize for that. But our next presenter is Ms. Anita Beals Northworthy, and she states that her desire and willingness to give back to her community can be seen in her professional and personal activities because it's all based on her deep love and commitment to God. Anita received an undergrad degree from the University of Southern Mississippi, a master's degree from Mississippi State University. She's worked in the field of mental health for over 27 years. She's a licensed counselor, a professional counselor with the state of Mississippi, and she is the founder of Best Day Ever. Isn't that a wonderful name for an organization? Best Day Ever. So this counseling service is located here in Mississippi, and she currently serves on the local school board as a District 1 school board representative. She completed her certification in Christian education. She got a diploma from the National Baptist Convention USA Sunday School Publishing Board. She is also a mental health first aid national certified instructor for both adults and children. And she is a devoted mother of 27 years to Michael Norsworth. And she said they are proud parents of two amazing children and 5 grandchildren. How awesome. Welcome, Anita. And before I turn it over to her, let me just say, both of these ladies are very busy. I read their bios, my goodness. They both are very busy and they're both doing things to help others. So I hope that they are taking some self-care seriously. And I'm just so glad that they took time out of their busy day to join us. Go ahead, Anita.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Sharice, for all that valuable information that you presented. Definitely much needed during this time. And hey, my motto is always knowledge is power. You know, the more we know, the better we can do. Okay, and just bringing this awareness gives people a space and a voice to talk about, you know, things that are happening all around, whether it be mentally, emotionally, or physically. It gives them a space to do that. And I think this day and time, that's what people need is more and more of a safe space. So I am happy to be here in this fabric to share with you all my knowledge about ADHD, which is a growing trend. And I will say, in my day, it was something that wasn't heard of by me in my day, but yet and still just working in this area, I can see myself more and more and more growing up, definitely around second grade, third grade, dealing with some of these areas here. So with that being said, Bettina, I am ready to kick off. I know there's a series of questions that I'll be sharing and answering. So I am ready whenever you are.
Okay, so let's start, Anita, again by talking about ADHD. What is it? How is it defined?
Okay. ADHD is not a one size fit all condition. there are mainly three main types of ADHD that is recognized by mental health professionals. The first type is predominantly inattentive type, and this is the type that's characterized by difficulty focusing. Sometimes following instructions, things have to be repeated over and over, and completing tasks. So that's one type of ADHD. And then you have the predominantly hyperactive, impulsive type. Not so much as being staying focused, but you're just hyperactive. These are the little squirmers. These are the individuals that are fidgetive all the time, excessive talking. You will get impulsive behavior in this area. That means you're reacting without thinking. These are going to be your babies that, hey, kids may be taking a test, but they're up sharpening a pencil, or they're up moving around, making distracting noises. And they're very, very talkative in that hyperactive. It's just kind of hard to shut off. I like to look at it as if your brain is being driven by a motor. You know, even with our cars don't shut off until we do something about it. But in this hyperactive type, it is hard to shut it off. It is just constantly going. And then the third area is combined. So you can be both inattentive and you can also have the hyperactive behavior. So mental health professionals or your medical professionals, they look at ADHD in these three areas. It's either inattentive, hyperactive with impulse behavior, and then you can actually have both of these behaviors going on at the same time.
Wow, thank you so very much for that answer. Can you tell me how is it diagnosed?
Yes, it is important to note that there is no single definitive test for ADHD. Diagnosis relies on a combination of assessments from the expertise in the mental health professional, or like I said, your medical provider. This is an area you don't draw blood to get this determination. It's kind of based on observation, clinical interview, sometimes from the younger person, from a family member. You can conduct it that way. Behavioral observation is definitely key. You're going to look at a list of scales and questionnaires. I know for me in my practice and a lot of the medical professionals, there is a scale that we will send home by the parent, and also there is a scale that we can that the doctor sends like out to the teachers, so we can kind of get a better understanding of the observation of the behaviorals and stuff. Um, but yeah, but those are clinical interviews, review of medical and definitely educational history. So all of that is determined too, it plays an important factor, especially the educational part of it. You definitely want to know like write-ups, test scores, academic functioning and stuff. So all of that plays a very, very significant part with that
Thank
as
you so
well.
much. That's whew. So you can't just look at a child just because they're acting
No,
out and say that that's what's going on.
no,
It
no,
has to be
ma'am.
more involved. So let me
hmm
you talked about some of the symptoms, but are there any more that we should be looking for in terms of behavior?
Yes, and a lot of that with behavior can come, Bettina, from through like psychological testing to assess the attention, the impulsivity, and other cognitive functions too may play a part in that. One thing I tell my parents is you definitely want to know, you know, what it is, because ADHD kind of display itself in a couple of areas. As far as the, like we talked, the inattentive, the hyperactive behaviors and stuff, you also need to, trauma plays a factor in that. So you definitely want to key in on your psychological testing so that you can definitely pinpoint, kind of where these behaviors and stuff are coming from. So, and also, I think you were asking me, like, what are some behavioral things that we can kind of look at when we're looking at children? These are some things that maybe display themselves. It could be difficulty staying focused on task or even play activities. Sometimes you'll find these kids not wanting to share. They're very disruptive during class time, appearing not to listen when spoken directly to. Sometimes their mind may be far off in space, so it appears that they're not listening. Struggling to follow instructions. A lot of times with these babies, you have to repeat things over and over and over again for them. And look at this one. Frequently losing items necessary for a task, necessary for that. And they're easily distracted. There's a lot of fidgeting and squirming, talking excessively, which we talked about before, interrupting or intruding on others. So if you have this baby that blurts in, no matter, where they're at conversation, you got to take that moment, you got to stop, and they got to have the floor during that time. So interrupting and intruding on others. So these are some of the signs and symptoms of ADHD in our children.
Wonderful. So you said in our children, are there some different signs for adults?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, most definitely. Adults with ADHD often underdiagnosed because of their symptoms can be mistaken as flaws or stress. Now, I got to chime in right here for the participants that are listening. This is what happens when we miss or we just don't take the time early on. I always say earlier is better. The sooner you can get these diagnoses or whatever on the book is so much better. But I also know that, and I can say this, African American communities, this is an area that we don't readily educate ourselves in. So sometimes this can be the reason why these things go overlooked. So some signs and symptoms for adult ADHD, maybe look at this: difficulty prioritizing and managing time effectively. Time can literally get away from them. They don't have good management of time. Procrastination is on key. They wait to the last minute to get things done, and then they have trouble completing that task. And then that's where a lot of frustration, a lot of stress build up, even depression, even anxiety can actually come in during this time too as well. Impulsive decision making, because look, you've waited so long and now you got to make a decision at the spur of the moment. They're restless, feeling on edge, mood swings and irritability, difficulty maintaining relationships. So when you're looking, going back to what Sharice was talking about, people that are in and out of these unhealthy relationships. They're kind of jumping from, when one person kind of get tired of the procrastination and stuff, then they kind of tend to put them out, and then that's when a lot of that anger and stuff can come in and be built up. So yes, these are the symptoms of ADHD that can be found in our adult populations, Bettina.
Wow. And most people don't think of adults as being ADHD. They just think that it's some kind of character flaw. They're just not trying. They're just trifling or whatever.
Right.
But now I'm so glad that we were able to have that conversation and to bring that enlightenment today for those who may not. And then others know about it, but we're not sure how we can help. So that's going to be my final question for you, Anita, is what are some of the things, the strategies that can be used to help adults and children manage their lives with ADHD?
Yes, that's a great question, Bettina. And like I stated earlier, is always better. And a lot of times when it goes undetected or undiagnosed in childhood and you get over in adulthood, a lot of your medical professionals look at it, point it off as depression, when it's actually ADHD. And it's kind of hard to, one of the key treatments for ADHD, both adult and children, is medication. So by the time you get over into adulthood, there's not a provider without a paper trail or proper diagnose of ADHD from childhood to adult. It's hard for providers to write medication strips for an adult because what you're needing is maybe a stimulant or a non-stimulant, and that's going to be like your Adderall, your Concerta, your Focalin, even for adults. But there's a lot of medical providers that don't like to write adults that with the fear of now abuse, and stuff like that. That's why I always say earlier is better. And if there is a paper trail that follows you from childhood over into adulthood, that makes it a lot better. So definitely medication. One of my favorite things that I like to do is therapy. Being a therapist now in the mental health field for an area of 27 years, CBT is my main go-to. I love things about CBT because it focuses on your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. Okay. A lot of times with ADHD, especially over in adulthood, if you can reprogram and retrain your mind, just say one of the symptoms with adult ADHD is procrastination. You got to reprogram and retrain your mind to come out of that procrastination area there. So CBT helps with that. To me, it helps. I like to say flip the script on things. So CBT is definitely one of the areas that I love to do. Coaching and behavioral tracking is definitely another area that I like to do. I like to look at that as keeping up with you. Knowing where you are at all times. Okay, that's behavioral tracking. You got to know when things are getting off center for you. You got to know when things are getting on the uptick, especially when there is an increase in your triggers, and stuff like that. You got to keep up with you. So I love the behavioral tracking. And in my practice, I look at it as knowing where you are at all times. And sometimes that comes in with constantly checking in. As the word declares, you have to renew your mind. Sometimes I have to do that at least 5, 6 times a day just to kind of keep up with myself. So routine coaching, behavior tracking. The last thing I want to look at in that area is dieting. Dieting. You may say, what does that have to do with ADHD? It has a lot to do with it because if you're already hyperactive, you don't want to be consuming a lot of caffeines, a lot of things like that. Physical activity is key. Burn that energy out on the walking trail or exercising, putting these babies in sports, pulling those electronics from them, getting them involved in some type of outside extracurricular activity, even if you got to get out in the yard with them. And the last thing is sleep, monitoring your sleep. Sometimes if you're not getting enough rest or enough sleep, that will kind of throw you into some of these signs and symptoms that we forestated and talked about.
Wow, that was a lot.
Mhm.
Both of you ladies have provided us with some wonderful information. We've been truly blessed to have you here with us today. So now what we're going to do is open up for questions and answers from our listening audience. But before we do that, I do again want to remind you to please share this information with your family and with your friends, because there's someone that you might be really blessing by just sharing our website with them. And I'll give that to you again in just a few minutes. So we're going to open up, and if you are on Zoom, then please feel free to either open your mics and ask your questions or put your question in the chat. If you're on Facebook, then please put your comments or your questions in your comment section, and we'll have people that will ask those questions for you. So, do we have questions?
Okay,
sounds
good.
like-
Good
Go ahead.
morning. Great job, guys. Okay, I know of a family. They have a child that's been diagnosed as ADHD, but somewhere someone said that the child no longer needed it. She don't know who did it. The parent was not involved in the process, and they actually what he was getting is a compensation the household was for, for him being what they consider disability. And should not the parent always be involved in the process when their child is being diagnosed? Because what has happened is the child is under community counseling and they're receiving services, but someone at Social Security Administration said, well, they're no longer disabled.
Hmm.
Either one of you can, Anita, you want to answer that question? And if you have something to say, you can, Therese.
Go ahead.
Yes,
Go
so
ahead,
true,
Maria.
so true. Especially if this parent is still technically have direct care, direct custody, there should be not be anything that should be done to or for their child without parental consent, without parental involvement. So yeah, and I'm not quite sure why Social Security would deem them no longer being disabled. Now, one thing I will say that I am discovering with Social Security and disability and children being diagnosed with ADHD, it just about has to be severe, severe, severe. A lot of cases that I know start out maybe on the severe realm, but by the time Social Security and disability is getting to them, and you done got involved with therapy, you done got involved with behavior specialists at the school, you done got involved with medication, and you're compliant with all of that, a lot of times the ADHD will kind of minimize itself. But if you take all of those things away, then you're going to get an uptick in it. So starting out with Social Security, yeah, you probably had this severe case of ADHD, but as you're moving along, things have gotten better. So that could be a factor to kind of look at, when Social Security is deeming them that is not a disability. And I will tell you that I feel way back in the day we have just kind of ruined things. Disability is not as swiftly and easily as it once was, and I'm thinking at least 30 years ago. You could have a diagnosis and you were deemed disabled, but now there's got to be a paper trail a paper trail. And I tell all my parents that, you got to have a paper trail. If your baby is diagnosed with ADHD, what disability is going to be looking for is they're going to be looking for medical records where this child is taking medication. They're going to be looking for therapy records, not a every 3 month therapy record, but this has got to be consistent. School records where they're having this uptick in behaviors. Maybe they're having to be pulled daily and worked with one-on-one and stuff like that. Paper trail, paper trail, paper trail. And no, nothing. If this child has biological parents that they are in trusted care of, that there should not be anything done without
Thank
that parental consent.
And that was one of the main concerns I have about this situation. The parent just got a letter saying they cut the child off of his benefits, but the child is still going through services for his condition. So, and she had no earthly idea as to what happened. She don't know who did it, how they did it. She was not informed other than it was being cut off. So thank you for that. But she is since then, we've gotten connected with someone there and they told her what she needs to do. But it was just, it's just always I try not to be amazed when these things happen, but
Right.
it happens. It happens. And
Yes.
I would just say to anybody listening in, if somebody has done something to affect your household and saying things and you don't have any idea, you didn't go to any meetings, you didn't participate in any type of assessment, then something needs to be addressed.
Yeah. And
I
let me
just want
let
to
me
pick.
chime in another one more thing with that, because now clearly hearing the statement. One thing too that you want to check on is a lot of times disability will send paperwork and stuff out. I know they're
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot of redeterminations and stuff like that since COVID. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure that there hadn't been any paperwork that has been sent out that the family needs to adhere to. And then also, I do know with children, they age out. I want to say 18, 19, 20. I want to say 18. So it just say if they got diagnosed and approved for disability at the age of, let's just say 11, and now they are 18, they age out of that, which means they need to go back in and reapply. So it may not necessarily have been that someone has called and had the benefits revoked. It could have been that there was not a timely response to some type of correspondence. And then during pandemic, people moved around. So if there's been a change of address and stuff like that, and Social Security is not aware of any of that, and they've been trying to communicate, that could be a reason too, as well. So you kind of maybe want to follow up too with that as well.
We addressed all those things and none of those were factors. And the child
Okay.
is under age 11. But,
Okay.
but like I said, she's going to take the steps. She has someone, I told her I could not be her person.
Advocate. Okay.
Yes, I could not. But she has someone at the school that she's going to have to go with her to do all of that.
Okay.
Because
Well, we certainly,
everything you said, that's what was asked by the Social
Good.
Security personnel.
Hmm.
Did you get the letter? Have you moved? All that was addressed, but none of
Okay.
those were the factors. So thank
Good
you so
deal.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
Sister Brenda, we really want to thank you for doing what you could do to
Yes,
connect her
ma'am.
to an advocate that could take the next step. So
Yes.
that is certainly something that we at Oak Hill support. So, Ms. Cerise, did you have anything that you wanted to say? Because I think we're getting
Well,
closer to time to wrap up.
no problem. So there's something here that we use called SOAR, and it's a database where they're able to connect with Social Security through our mental health professionals, and
Mhm.
they actually help them gather all their paperwork, and it's in a space, right? So they can go right to it, say, oh, he's been doing this, because sometimes parents lose things and they don't have everything that they need when it's time for them to recertify or give things that are being asked for because of the traumas that have happened in their life. So SOAR actually helps them keep their paperwork together and stay connected with everything. And also I don't know if this child has an IEP. That IEP is up to age 26.
Wow.
So yeah, so I don't, and that actually helps them beyond high school into college, or if they get that certificate. So there's a lot of different factors where, like, and I agree with you, Anita, the paper trail is so important
Mhm.
because what it does is it gives you that leverage when someone tells you that something isn't happening. You can actually, as a parent, advocate for yourself and go back and say, oh no, at
Mhm.
least 4 times within the last 2 months, he's did this, and this, and it's documented. We all know that if it's not written down, it doesn't show that it was done. So having things documented and making sure that you have a system or connecting with an agency that will keep your information in a way where when it's time for you to recertify or when it's time for you to connect back, they can't deny you. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you so very much. I think that we are about at time. So I'm going to do our friendly reminders, and then we will sign off of Facebook, but we will remain on Zoom. So if you have any questions, please stay on for a few minutes, and you can ask Miss Anita and Miss Sharice at that time. So I wanted to remind you that the Ask Mary and Pat Zoom webinar will be 6 p.m. Monday, October 27th. Let's Talk Real Estate with Area Mays is 11 a.m. Thursday, October the 30th. And finally, our next third Wednesday parent resource chat is on Wednesday, November the 19th. And our focus will be on self-care while actually providing care, especially during the holiday season. So I want you to please be sure that you join and encourage your friends and family members to join in, because we are trying our best to provide valuable information and resources to make their lives better. And remember that you can always find out more about us on our website at www.healthytogetherms.org. Again, that's www.healthytogetherms.org. Once again, we want to acknowledge our Executive Director, Dr. Michael O. Minor, our Program Director, Lottie Minor, and this has been a production of the Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation, empowering parents and strengthening families in the Mid-South region and across the state of Mississippi. For those of you who are on Facebook, thank you for joining in, and you continue to have a wonderful day. For those of you on Zoom, again,